Tonight's launch features one of the three authors of the book, Ian Palmer. He's the founding partner of Palmer Development Group, a development consultancy. He's been the team leader on more than 100 public sector service delivery projects, including municipal services planning, water and sanitation, housing, roads, and public transport. He's also adjunct professor at UCT's African Centre for Cities, and he served on the board of Moodley Trust for many years. It's a civil society organisation providing water and sanitation to rural communities. He's also the contributor to a book we published at the end of last year, Upgrading Informal Settlements in South Africa. Ian will be in conversation with Derek Powell, who is a professor in law at the Dullah Omar Institute of Constitutional Law, Governance and Human Rights at UWC. There he's head of the Applied Constitutional Studies Laboratory, and has pioneered applied research that combines legal and computational methods to understand, measure, and engage with complex problems of accountability, the rule of law, and social justice. This is from the website. Derek was Deputy Director General and Policy Advisor to the Mandela and Mbeki administrations, working on policy processes to establish the systems of democratic local government and intergovernmental relations to implement the 1996 Constitution. Also here this evening is another co-author, Nishendra Moodley, who is involved in public sector transformation. He worked with the Palmer Development Group in the 2000s and is now involved in the South African National Treasury's City Support Programme. So I'd like to thank them and Z Books in the UK for bringing this book to UCT Press, making it possible to produce an affordable version here in South Africa. Thanks to Bookhound for hosting us. And over to you.
Thanks very much, Sandy. And well, I think first off, congratulations again in abstention for what I think is a really terrific book. And maybe take us straight in. What was your motivation for the book when you set down? I know it's something that's been with you for some time. It's an intention.
Thanks, Derek. Thank you for being here. This is probably the closest to people I've ever had on stage. I think the motivation was I've been working in the field of infrastructure and municipal services all my life. More importantly, post-94, with the consultancy I've been involved in, working directly with government, with state-owned entities, with local government, and international development agencies. So over that period of 20 years, I've got to understand the sort of amount of what's happening in how government functions and various all its myriad components. And Nishendra has been now worked together for 12 years. He took over running the firm after me. And Sue Parnell, who's not here, has been an academic we've been associated with over the last 2 decades as well. So between us all, we felt we had it was a worthwhile thing to do to record our experience and our reflections on the last of the 1994 period. So we sort of decided to put it down in the book and hope that it will be useful for others.
Building a Capable State, the title of your book. Of course, you're focusing mainly on local government, the local government state, but not exclusively, because we're looking at the interactions between national, provincial governments and local government. It's a concept which emerges, I think, quite strongly in the National Development Plan, capable developing the state. But how do you understand it in the book? And what is your framework for measuring capability?
Yes, well, this is largely been Nishendra's contribution, but we've taken what's internationally accepted as a sort of capability framework, which starts with what's called environmental capability, which is sort of underlying economy, demographics, and spatial structure, which you really can't influence in the short to medium term. So, for example, a city has high level environmental capability, simply because there's money there, there's skilled people, there's dense settlements, while rural areas have got a low level of environmental capability, is the opposite. Relatively poor and underdeveloped dispersed settlements. So that's the first element, is environmental capability. The second one is referred to as institutional capability, and that is a complex set of factors, including politics, policy, the structure of institutions, how government is structured, how state-owned entities relate to government, how relate to civil society. So it's this interrelationship between organizations, which is generally referred to as institutional, and that also includes financial aspects, how the financial system works and fiscal framework works. The third component is organizational, which is probably how most of us understand capability. Does this organization function well? And that's most of what we're reading about, the way cities function, organization, and similarly national departments and state-owned entities, of course, are very much a flavor of the year, and that relates back to the governance, administrative arrangements, etc. And finally, individual capability, what each person in an organization brings with their own education skills, values. So the book sort of deals with all of those, but probably institutional aspects are probably the most significant.
If I may just read one of the I think important quotes in the book, which stood out for me, really related to the importance of this issue, but why it's a prerequisite. And you see it as absolutely essential to fulfilling the demand for affordable basic service provision associated with a rights-based sustainable development agenda. And local government in a transition emerged as probably one of the most important new innovations in our constitutional framework. It was probably one of the most complex transitions of any part of the state. I think perhaps just to give the audience a sense of the structure of local government. What do we mean by that? What does it look like? And where does local government fit into the state in this very complex system we have involving national, provincial, and local spheres of government?
Okay, well, if one talks about local government, I think one needs to start with structure. How is it structured? With space, how is it distributed across space, and the sectors, very different with different sectors, water versus electricity, say, for example, and then in time. So if you deal with structure, I think we're all fairly familiar with the fact that we've got three spheres of government: national, provincial, local. And as Derek mentioned, this book is mainly about the local sphere, local government, and how it relates to other spheres. The important thing to understand about local government in South Africa is this primarily deals with built environment, the roads, water, sanitation. So in terms of the services experience of most people, experience of place, whereas a province deals more with people, education, health, etc. So you have that broad structure, and then within that, local government is divided into two: local and district municipalities. That's outside the metros. And in the book, we deal with this fairly complex structure, and what we argue overly complex structure, particularly with regard to district municipalities. And I'll come back to district municipalities afterwards. So that's an in structure, and a lot of the functioning of it depends on how powers and functions are shared between these three spheres and between the two tiers, between local and district. And the district, it's highly problematic, actually. Then there's a sector-based view of local government, because you're delivering individual services associated with sectors, and we'll come and talk about a couple of them. So whether it's water and sanitation, the book deals with water and sanitation, roads and transport, electricity, housing, and it deals with all the major sectors. Then we need to look at it in space. So when we talk about local government, we talk about, on the one hand, metros, largest metros, 3 to 4 million people, highly developed economies by international standards in certain developing countries, down to deep rural municipalities like Kanye in north of KZN, highly dispersed settlements, low level of economic activity, and what actually we back here to environmental capability, but in fact it translates into organizational capability. Our cities have been generally very effective for all of you. They get hammered now and then, they can stand tall in environment with international peers, with rural municipalities struggle, and we'll come back to that. Then we're talking about in time, a lot of the arguments we make is that the capability state was varied considerably over time, and we divide it into 3 phases: 94 to 2000, which is we've called it the new democracy, sort of age of freedom and reorganization. It's a wonderful period to be associated with government, and actually to be in South Africa with this new freedom we had and the ability to reorganize things starting from scratch. And generally a phase that you can identify as with a high level of capability. The best people coming into government, ANC, or the best people in, the better people who were inherited from previous administrations were there, and so on. We then moved from 2000 to 2008 into what we're calling the making it work phase, the growth and implementation. New local government was in place in 2000. The economy was growing relatively fast, and there was emphasis on delivery. The RDP was flying. If you look at the statistics in the book, high level of delivery of housing, water, sanitation, electricity, not all fantastic, and we can come back to some examples. And then finally, the last phase, 2008 until now. 2008 was a turning point, both because the international recession started to bite, and we got a new administration, the Zuma administration, and that has been, we call it an alienation phase, slowing economy and a disheartening citizenry. So we have these various ways of seeing local government and seeing
these phrases, just to put them into perspective, these are your own descriptions, is that correct? I mean, they're not official policy phrases.
Yeah, no, we just put them there to tell the story.
Now, the book covers a lot. I mean, you spoke about all the sectors, all of the key functions of local government. Just to give people a flavour, you're dealing with the whole gamut of issues, from the transition of local governments, the organizational structure, through to financing municipal services, roads and transport, electricity and housing. It's a comprehensive treatment of the sectors of local government. We're not going to be able to cover all of those, but I thought it would be quite interesting to talk about at least 2 of the central issues. One being the financing of local government. This is a perennial problem for those of us concerned with local government. What is the structure of local government finance, and how well do you see that framework working? What are some of the central problems there? And the other one I want to talk about is water and sanitation. It's topical, it's important, particularly in the context of this city, and perhaps we can pick up on that after the
Okay, well, they're 2 quite interesting sectors and interesting departments. If we start with finance, post 1990, the ANC government in waiting was able to draw on the very best expertise internationally. Everybody wanted to make South Africa work, and there was literally dozens of people who were there. Some of the most famous names are still there in the field of local government, came to South Africa and assisted in redesigning the system. And we have, as a result, in fact, we've got a very sophisticated system of local government, a local government fiscal framework. And that includes the way money is transferred from national government down to provincial and local government, the way the system of devolution, giving local government the right to raise revenue, to trade in services, to charge property rates, etc. And it's seen us in good stead. I think it's been a successful system, and it has continued to be a successful system. One of its great attributes is these transfers of money, either on a regular monthly basis or for particular infrastructure grants, are governed by formulas transparently. It's written up into this amazing piece of legislation called the Division of Revenue Act. So every year it's legislated how much money you will get from the national fiscus, the national pot, down into your municipality or your province. And that's very powerful. You know how much money you can get, you know the rules that you can be applied to how much money you get. In addition to that, there's been a very rapid increase in transfers, particularly over the 2000s until a year or two ago when it's flattened off. It's flattened off mainly because our economy is flattened off. So the state doesn't have, or the national government or the national fiscus just doesn't have that money anymore to transfer. So it is putting pressure on municipalities. Just to pick up on it's called a differentiation story. In a city, cities are reliant on support for operational activity on less than 10% of money from the national fiscus. Now, they raise their own money through rates, tariffs, etc. On the other hand, rural municipalities may be reliant on transfers, reliant on national fiscus for up to 90% of their revenue. So you've got this very different situation of financially autonomous cities, these in terms of operational activity, down to financially very dependent rural municipalities. And I think just to conclude on the finance, it's been partly credit to the National Treasury. It's been a very strong department from the beginning, from the early 1990s. It's been a strong department until probably I think the concern has started coming in the last year or two, when we read the newspaper people leaving. So there is a concern now about the capability of the National Treasury as a department. Certainly, if you take the full spectrum of the 20-year period or 20-year period, they've been a very successful department. And shall I carry on?
Yeah, I mean, sanitation. Pull out one or two of the key challenges in the funding framework. I mean, if you're looking from the government's perspective, is there sufficient funding? You've spoken about this bifurcation between the metro or urban and rural. How does that play out in the fiscal framework?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what Treasury says, and we believe it, and we've been working with the Treasury on that. What the argument is that, it's maybe a bit complicated, but if we separate the operational activities, and those operational accounting municipalities from capital, and so what you have is cities are okay, they can raise enough money, they're viable. Local authorities, rural local authorities are not. But the argument is if they have the capability to bill customers who are not poor, collect revenue, manage their finances properly, they can make it. So that it's a failure of rural municipalities in the sense that they just can't do some of these basic tasks. So we would argue that there is the potential for them to be viable, and we need to believe in rural local government and support them. But they are supported with enough money in terms of transfers, but they need to be supported to raise their own money.
The water sector, water and sanitation sector, give us a sense of how that sector is structured. And let's have a look at whether we have a capable water sector.
It's an interesting sector because it has gone through a stage of growing capability into a decline. And what is really interesting about capability is how it comes and goes and what makes it come and go. In this case, you're talking about a very, very significant department. It has historically employed over 20,000 people on its own activities. It also oversees something probably now about 1.5 trillion rands worth of assets in the country. It's responsible for allocating all the water in the country, managing water quality. It's vital that the Department of Water, used to be called the Department of Water and Forestry, the Department of Water Affairs, and the Department of Water and Sanitation. It's vital that they remain capable. And they were communicated in the early 90s, they were held under international action partners. They then had the benefit of 10 years with one Director General and only 2 ministers. So from up until 2004, they were stable, they had a highly technically capable organization. Post 2004, they moved into a stage where they had, the following 13 years, they had 10 DGs and 5 ministers, and that just created organizational churn and an increasingly demoralized organization. And over that period, they went from having 350 engineers down to 80 engineers. So in other words, their capability, technical capability, declined dramatically. They do a lot of their own, run their own infrastructure, particularly big water resources schemes like dams. But from our point of view, they also need to be at the front line of supporting municipalities, particularly rural municipalities. So we've had a sector that, if you take water and sanitation down at local level, it's a sector where the metros has been successful. 98% of urban South Africans have got adequate water. But the figure for sanitation, I should have remembered it, is 80-something, and 85%, I think. And those 15% of people living in informal settlements, we have failed to deliver effective service, particularly sanitation services, particularly in informal settlements, and it's quite well publicized. And you've got to go into any of these places in Cape Town and see how terrible sanitation system is. So in urban areas, you can say it's mostly successful, but with problems on sanitation. In rural areas, with access to pipes has been okay. 73% of people in rural areas have got a pipe scheme, and another 10% have got some local source. So we put the pipes in, but the problem comes when we can't keep those pipes working, and there's some terribly dramatic and concerning failures, particularly in Limpopo province, where less than 10% of people can be sure that the water is going to flow in those pipes throughout the year, and most people have to survive with that 2 days plus shuttles. So we think we've got problems here, and maybe our problem will get worse, but it's nothing compared to what people have struggled with here. So it's a very mixed sort of story, and a mixed in time and a mixed in space.
But maybe just give us a structure of the sector, sort of snapshot. You're dealing with, in essence, sort of 4 levels of government if you bring the districts in. And this is an issue which has arisen in this context, in this province, where the provincial government became involved, in fact, without any constitutional powers at all. So could you just take us, perhaps starting with local government, what is it that local government does with water up through the system?
Eric's a constitutional lawyer. He likes this stuff. I mean, it is very topical here in Cape Town. I think most of us sort of recognise what the story is around housing functions, but national government is responsible for developing water resources. In other words, if it's building a dam or even a well field, it's the responsibility of the national government, or even a desalination plant, you can say, a little bit contentious, but it is developing a water source. The bulk and distribution of water is a government function, so pumping it out of the dam, bringing it into the city, distributing it into the city, so a local government responsibility. As Erica said, provinces got no responsibility. The only grounds they had to, if there's a disaster, then the province. I mean, so a lot of people blame the province here where they don't have any responsibility. My own sense is this is primarily the responsibility of the national government and resources, and they have serious shortcomings, partly because of their own capability. But certain cities also need to take some responsibility for the way they've dealt with this crisis. But I don't think we should get too far into this. It will be a long drawn out thing.
Yeah. No. There was a figure here which I thought was very interesting, and perhaps just to read this from the book. You make the point that the numbers of engineers are decreasing overall from 500 to 390. And that, I assume, is in the period that 2005 to 2015. What's behind that? Are there push and pull factors? What are some of those?
So those are the numbers in municipalities, and so it affects metros and local municipalities and district municipalities. The inability to retain engineers, primary civil engineers, because most of it is civil engineering infrastructure, but it does include electrical engineers. So, and obviously, given that we're talking about the built environment, infrastructure, intensive services, that's quite critical. And it's a really complicated issue as to why this is happening, but a lot of it would be probably not enough engineers graduating, quite a wave of all the engineers leaving, but a lot of issues around affirmative action. But to my mind, a lot of it is just the ethic in an organization, which goes back to how it's governed and how it's run. If you want to attract top professionals, whether they be engineers or finance people or planners, you have to create an environment or an organization where they want to be. And in many cases, they are just the opposite. It's very alienating. It's a sense of being disrespected by politicians. And if you've got an economy that's doing well, you're much better off in the private sector. So it's a really alarming situation, I think, as you suggested.
But it's not as if the state has been oblivious to this problem. I mean, over the years, there have been a number of interventions to support municipalities and build capability. Some of those you've been involved in. What's your assessment of some of those projects, like the Cienza Lounge and so on?
There wasn't much of this question.
I'm sorry.
No. I think this would be machinery better able to answer. So I think that there's two things to look at. There's these individual programs. So you've had Project Consolidate that was started and then stopped. Local government turnaround strategy that was started and then has faded away. The Intermanji, which is a program to place engineers in Secondum that was started with PDSA and then stopped and then brought into RISA. We've now got back to basics. RISA and support agent quite critical but floundering. So what you have is you have these individual programs quite often associated, as Shu would say, with a particular minister. This minister comes in and they want this program, and the minister goes and the next one wants to put their stamp on it. Not enough sort of continuity. And that's a big concern. So, and it's not only these individual programs, it's generally just a lack of technical capability in national departments to support local government, particularly rural level.
Ian, you posed the question, do we have a capable state? I mean, it's a central question of the book. And in the final chapter, you try and provide some kind of answer to that. What is your answer? Do we have a capable state?
Well, our answer in the book is yes, but. So basically, yes. The interesting thing around it is how, if you just go back through the last 6 months, if you position us in November and you just go back to what is your gut feeling, we all say no, it's not capable. We may have read Crispin Older's book on how to steal a city, which is the story of corruption in Nelson in the Bay Metro, and there was a book launch here when Chippy was talking about this book, and then you read Jacques Poe's book on business eaters, and you say, look, this is not a capable state. Then comes December, and we think, oh, maybe it is. And then comes yesterday, and we think maybe it still is, and then comes today, and it's not so hard. We just get up and down the whole time. So, but what we try to do though is take a longer term view, as you can gather. So we've tried to see, don't forget the past 20 years. And we had 2 phases, half of those years, 50 years. We've been really capable by various measures, and we have put the measures in there. Our service rate delivery, services, various assessments of performance measures, etc. And then shown how it has declined since then. One of the interesting things is just looking at protests, civil society protests, as a sign of just how it's declined. particularly since 2008, something you've been involved in mentioning. So the answer is yes, take a long-term view, we are capable, we can recover. And I think the interesting thing about Chippy's book in Nelson Mandela Bay, some of you may have read it, but the extraordinary thing about it was he showed that a team of dedicated people can root out corruption and can turn a decline at least into the start of a recovery. And I think Nelson Mandela Bay is probably in a recovery phase, even though probably to his chagrin at the time that they just got it turned around, the ANC lost the city. So there's something positive there and get out of this, and hopefully we're about to get out of it.
So, but you are, I mean, the thread of the book seems to be that certainly when it comes to the metropolitan municipalities in the larger cities, you've seen capability there. When it comes to the predominantly rural areas, you've got significant challenges of a range of different levels. And then by sector, you've got different kinds of problems. And I think what you're warning against in this yes but is a sort of one size fits all, let's start again. We come up with the right new idea. And there's a quote here which I think is quite an important one, is that what is clear is that public institutions are precious. They are hard to build and easy to break. Very important, I think, for any reformers in the future to sort of keep that in mind. Very easy to design things in the abstract, very hard to keep them going, easy to break them. If a new government in 2019 came together in Parliament and said your 2 or 3 key priorities for building capability into the state, what would some of those be?
Well, first of all, I'd go and consult with Shinra and Sue. I think it's fairly obvious, particularly right now, that it starts with politics, and particularly politics at the highest level, the presidency. There's just obvious and amazing and concerning to all of us just how much a leader can bring about a decline. So at the highest level, how you can break not only one institution, but break a lot of institutions. So that's the first step. So the first step, if Phil was asking me to say, well, the first step is you can. Then I think one has to look at taking the whole theory of capability of institutions and the institution reform. One of the strong arguments, it's not terribly strong in the book, but I think certainly Shinra and I believe it is there's this real problem with district municipalities. We're wasting resources, we're creating duplicated administrations, districts have not been effective. If you go back to engineers, some districts which are responsible for water and sanitation for 700,000 people don't have one civil engineering. I mean, that is, not that it's broken, it was never. Was never there in the beginning. So yeah, that's one place where one needs reform. It's a structural problem. Then there are these powers and functions, and generally the powers and functions situation in South Africa is okay, but we want cities to have more responsibility. So we want cities to have control over housing and public transport more than they have at the moment. At the other extreme, we've probably over-delegated to rural municipalities. We've given them this agenda of developmental local government, in other words, be responsible for the economy, for social justice, for services, and everything you can think of, and they just really are struggling. So we think again about that. On the fiscal framework system, and I think I should have mentioned this before, I think that the fiscal system that's been under control of the National Treasury has been quite good. But housing and transport subsidies are controlled by the Transport Department and the Housing Department, both who have had quite serious liquidity problems. So we've got a dysfunctional housing and transport system. Just as an example, the beef taxis have at the moment is quite bad. They're not carrying the poorest people to work, because generally they're servicing informal settlements. They're getting those subsidies, where we've got heavily subsidized rail and bus rail and bus systems. So there are problems in our subsidy system which need to be fixed, and they are making a substantial difference. Then I just want to come back to support. We have to get better support arrangements for local authorities, and the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent is one focal point. They are there to support infrastructure delivery, and they themselves are technically weak. So there are many things you can do to, if I was advising our future president. Just to go into more organizational reform. So organization, now how does organizations function? And we all know about that can be municipalities, and we know the struggle that our cities are having to organize themselves better, starting with governance, starting with politics, and then we know the problem that our state-owned entities have been. Again, it's an organizational thing. How do you improve governance, get better boards, get better leaders? So those things have to be addressed. And finally, when it's come back to the orphan child, rural government, where they can be fixed is by much better support and much better partnerships and so on. So I would go back and prioritize that.
We have a few more minutes actually before we open it up. Is there anything else that you'd want to cover that we haven't discussed yet? We can't go into them.
No, and I think we touched on those things that I was talking about.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a very dense book. It's very comprehensive, and I think for any policy maker and student with local government, it's a fabulous resource. It represents, I think, enormous institutional memory and capability from three individuals who have had a very long career in helping build the system. And certainly individuals that who are well known within the sector. So congratulations again to all of you. Sandy, I've kept to my time, so I hope I get some sort of bonus. It's over to the audience for questions. How long do we have for questions? 15 minutes. Okay, perfect. All right. Do you need a roving mic? All right. Okay, excellent. If you wouldn't mind just making it short and crisp.